Hello, and welcome to It's Just Ali here, where the channel where we're basically going to be talking about legal issues and all that jazz. So anyway, today we're going to be talking about the main legal issues that I find are really annoying. Not just annoying, but generally need to change. We've come to an area and a time where these things just keep happening, as well as there are new issues that keep happening. Brexit to the side. Brexit, no, that's a main issue, but I'm not going to be talking about that. I'm going to be focusing on 5 to 6 main issues that I find are really annoying in the legal industry. I study law, and as a law student myself, I find that these are quite terrifying, to be honest. And ignore the setup in the background. It's the only place with good light, so we work with what we got. So anyway, moving on to main issues today. I've done lots of research and searched many articles. The main articles that I've been looking at revolved around the Law Society, as well as Financial Times and many other niche blogs, we can call it. I try to get a very different amount of sources we can use, and the main one that I find very infuriating is lack of diversity. Number one, lack of diversity in law firms today is a major issue. So perhaps we could say that it's increasing and many firms are getting onto this, but still the basis of a law firm these days is that they are mainly predominantly white males, and they tend to come from upper class in backgrounds, and it's quite infuriating, to be honest, even if I may be privileged myself to a certain extent, and it just shouldn't be that way. We can look at various different bit of an awkward pause there. We can look at various different places where we notice that, for instance, many Magic Circle law firms. I am in London, so there are various law firms here, as well as probably one of the most in the UK. But even if the law firm I worked at before, I noticed one thing: they're all relatively attractive people. They came from Oxbridge, which is quite ridiculous, and they would look down on red brick universities to a certain extent, even if they are Russell Group, and Russell Group being Oxford, and Cambridge, the best, Russell Group, then other unis going down. So the main issue, I guess we could say here, is that most of them were young, most of them went to either Oxford or Cambridge, came from a higher background, and sure, there were many females, but not in top positions. That was quite ridiculous, I think, that females can only succeed to a certain extent before they have to use their looks in a certain kind of way. You know what I mean. For them to be able to succeed, it seems like everyone in the law firm, everyone I'm saying because there are always exceptions, but it seems to me that many people, they're the same type of character. They did really well, they're book smart, and when they're book smart, it means they got the best grades and went to the best universities. There's no character I seem to find in these people, as well as a lack of diversity. And there are many social mobility programs these days for law firms, especially top ones. They're starting to notice. Even though this is a good thing, I think that they're trying to do it in a way where it will benefit them, so if that makes sense. So when they make this kind of firm and this kind of program, they think to themselves, right, so if we get lower classes coming in with different ethnic backgrounds, which is a good thing, then they're going to benefit the company by making themselves look good. And most of these positions are only for a day or a week long maximum, which are really hard to get into. But even so, it seems that they didn't actually care about it, because you look into the firms themselves. So why are these Magic Circle firms who are doing these programs to supposedly benefit others tend to be still the same type of people? Perhaps a mixed ethnic background person person of mixed ethnic background and colour could still go to Oxford, for instance. It seems to be just for the show, if you understand what I'm saying. And this isn't a good thing, obviously. We need to change that. Number 2, we don't want to make this too long, but I find it really important, is perhaps the use of AI technology. That's a new thing, and that's a good thing. But I was looking at an article in 2015, quite a few years back. But notice the difference here is the article was saying, it was quoted from someone who said that use of AI technology is a negative thing, in a negative light, because it's overriding the firm's right. But if it was a negative thing, then why would so many firms be focusing on this new type of technology? It's more about the person and the individual who has more character, and who is bringing this type of new type of thinking, who is more business conscious, right? This business conscious person is looking into the firm and saying, right, here's what the firm needs. And the legal industry is changing. You can't change that. So if the world is changing, the industry would need to change. You can't force it and just say, right, well, we don't want to use that, because then the firm's going to be left behind, obviously. So these type of things include, for instance, the way how legal accessibility online through data and whatnot. I'm not really a tech. And perhaps there are other things, such as the way the way things like accessibility, people tend to find this legal information online, which is a negative aspect, because obviously it's the lawyer's profession, either whether a solicitor, let's say, to be able to be, they're qualified for a reason, and for someone to be able to say, right, well, the information is free online, so why wouldn't I do it myself? Then it's kind of misleading in the fact that you find, sure, some correct information quite easily accessible, but then there's also the misinformation going on, and you say to yourself, why would I go to a solicitor to confirm this when the fees are so expensive? So the changing fees in this type of AI technology includes certain firms and business models, lots of financial technology innovators, shall we call it. They're creating firms, and I really like this idea personally, but they're creating firms in which this sort of information and any sort of legal advice is so accessible to anyone all over the world, assuming you have internet connection and you can search on Google quick. You generally be able to find it. You can search legal databases and search, okay, so questions, what has this happened in the case, without going to an old case and say, for instance, let's say financial fraud. You're going to say, what is the usual outcome? What do I need to do? And you can find that really easily online. You can even access, these firms allow you to access that this information without even speaking to a lawyer. They could be digital lawyers where it's basically a pre-coded answer from situations from actual lawyers before, or something along those lines. You understand what I mean. And another aspect of this is, which again, I don't want to be biased, but we can say here how the use of new digital firms is going on. I think it's generally the future. I find it really important because as someone who wants to continue to do my master's, hopefully in some sort of digital innovation technology, as well as law and tax and corporate to a certain extent, I find that innovation is a huge thing, and it's really important to notice that these digital firms are the new type of firms. It reduces costs and it makes sure that it's accessible to anyone, so that anyone can have full flexibility of working and doing as they please, while also attracting more clients at the same time. It's the ideal business model, essentially. And a lot of firms are being successful at this, such as one Australian firm I read. We're in the UK, but you know what I mean. Well, moving on. The third aspect I find really important is perhaps with appearances. If you haven't noticed, I have tattoos. Yes. So, I find that the appearance is generally sort of one kind in a law firm, and this needs to change. Number 3. We're at number 3, by the way. So, because you need to you have a dress code when you go into work usually, sure, but law firms more than ever are really traditional, I find, and getting into a traditional subject as a creative individual who enjoys perhaps alternative fashion brands, designers, and music taste, as well as appearance, I guess, I do find it quite important to be able to employ a wide range of people. And that's what I look into. That's what I admire about tech firms themselves, because they seem to be quite diverse, they're flexible, and the tattoos, for instance, they matter, sure, but unless you have a face tattoo or some sort of offensive symbol or someone that can offend it by, why would a piece of art that expresses yourself offend anyone at all? I don't understand it. But obviously it's reality. I'm prepared to the fact that I would need to wear long sleeves all the time, and that's fine, it's easily coverable. But in the future, when I do hopefully reach my goal of managing my own firm and business model, then I would like to think that I would be able to employ a wide range of employees in which they know I'm employing them, for instance, because they know that they have the legal knowledge that I need, and they have the right mind in thinking that they know they can change the industry, right? They're not just book smart. They have a sort of vision, we can call it, in which they know about the industry and the changing world and have a general idea of psychologically what a client wants and can bring to the company. So I think that's quite important, and it's also progressive, which is a really good thing, I personally believe, to have a wide range of looks. Sure, as long as you represent the company well, that's quite important to be able to dress a certain way, but it doesn't have to be always office smart or tattoos. Tattoos can be incorporated into such office smart outfits, a work shirt for instance, as long as it is appropriate. Can show a little bit, and you wouldn't have to risk getting fired. The fact that the Equality Act 2010 only covers tattoos in the sense of religious grounds, so that means that if you have a tattoo because of a religious belief, then you are safe. But even then, it rarely works. So the next issue, I guess, to say is the Equality Act perhaps needs to be updated. The diversity issue also goes into there. You can't, for instance, fire someone, obviously, because you're from an ethnic background or you're not British citizen. But even so, this happens a lot, and usually it's too expensive to go forward to defend this case. Moving on, I think another reason we're going to go into number 4 is Brexit, because I think it's quite important how we say that with everything going on, there's going to be new laws coming into this, and obviously it's changing and everything. And I'm not going to get too much into Brexit, but I would just like to say that it's important for people to realise that new laws will need to be memorised. There's obviously the type of people employed perhaps will be changing because of immigration issues, for instance, into the UK. Perhaps not. Also financially, Brexit has a huge impact into UK and how businesses will work, perhaps whether it is trading or EU laws. It's really important changes. Number 5, our last point, and before I want to finish, apologies for all the stuttering in the background. We're going to be talking about the SQE. In case you don't know what the SQE is, the Solicitor's Qualifying Exam. This only applies to your solicitor, not as a barrister, just to qualify from 2 types of lawyers. I find it really important that, because if I've read correctly from the Law Chamber's website, it says that instead of the GDL, which is or the LPC, which is basically what you take if you want to transition from a different degree into law, which is a 1-year GDL, by the way, you take after you qualify, so 4 years total or 5 years depending on. Then also the fact that the LPC, I believe it said that people would need to retake the examination after a certain amount of years or period to be able to fit this new SQE qualification, which makes sense, but it puts lots of lawyers into, what should we call it, a disadvantage in a way. Current working lawyers, I guess I could say I'm safe, but the qualifying exam comes into place autumn 2020, so roughly that's the period that's going to come into place. And yeah, so overall, I don't know what we would like to think about this. Perhaps, how do you think, what do you think needs to change about the law industry? I'm really passionate about this subject, as I have my own special interests and a strong character, we could say. And I do wish to make change. However, the change I want to make is more within the firm itself overall, as it is with individual people. And for instance, EU or immigration is just, I'm interested in it, but it's not my main interest as much as it is with innovation, technology, tax and corporate fields, litigation for it. You know what I mean. So we're going to be talking about this. Welcome to my YouTube. Please subscribe if you do like this. I'm going to try to edit it. I hope it's not too long or anything. My Instagram is linked below. It's just Ali here. That's literally it. And I've got a podcast called BusinessTransition. We're still working. I do plan to upload every week, once a week. That's the aim. Maybe Fridays. Let's call it Friday. It's Saturday today. Anyway, thank you for listening, and join me for more videos like this.